We can start.
Okay. So, during the last session, we discussed about how the ignorance or avidya plays an important role in creating suffering or creating this sansaric journey. So today we are going to discuss about how when you become an Arya, how your priorities change, how your whole life goal changes from materialistic world to a place where there is no materialistic things. We cannot actually call it a place. So initially what we discussed was during the last session was that though we run after materialistic things, outside objects, images, sounds, smells, taste, touches, and thoughts. So that's what we do in our day-to-day life. We use our five senses and our mind to go after these neutral things. Neutral in the sense that they themselves cannot generate pleasure. And we understood that the mechanism of pleasure or bliss is just because of the vexation of the internal organ. So our quest or our aim or goal is to fulfill these internal objects. Since we have this thought of avidya throughout our lifetime, so what happens in the reincarnation process is that we generate a very high mental energy, since we are so attached to these outside objects. So since we are so attached to these outside objects, we are very much attached to the inside objects as well. So eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. So at what happens at the deathbed is, now we are going to lose the capability of seeing, listening, and smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. So since we have avidya or ignorance, since our idea is that there's a lot of pleasure or a lot of valuable things that we are going to lose through this process, we don't want to do that. So we are so attached, we generate a mental energy or a power that generates karmic energy, which creates another body and a mind, which are also vexatious. Why are they vexatious? Because without creating a vexatious body and a mind, we cannot experience bliss from neutral items, neutral organs. So it's us who wants this kind of a suffering body and a mind. So it's our mind only that creates this kind of a body and mind. So after creating this internal system, organ system, now they are creating a vexatious situation. It's like an ocean. However much we try to fill an ocean, we cannot be filled. Just like that. So now what we are trying to do is we are trying to fill the ocean of eye, ocean of ears, ocean of nose, tongue, body, and our mind. So if we go into the depth, let's say we are watching something. We are watching a movie or a drama, TV show, anything. So we are trying to fill this insatiable organ, or we are trying to fill the ocean. So we watched one episode, 2 episodes, or one movie, and we tried to fulfill our desires or complete or fulfill the need. But let's say we could complete or we could fulfill only 1% of our need. Now we have only 99% to go. So next day we watched another video or something and it came to 2%. And likewise, there would be a day that it would become 100% so that the vexation of the I is gone. So when I am referring to the I, I'm referring to the mind connected with the I. Not that I itself is vexatious, because of it can give rise to diseases. It can give burning sensation if we didn't blink, and there are a lot of other factors and other things that makes the I itself vexatious. But when we are trying to understand about the avidya or ignorance, what we can get rid of, we are trying to refer to the mind that is connected with the eye, mind that is connected with the ear, nose, tongue, and body, and mind itself as well. So when the mind is vexatious, so we try to get rid of that vexation, treat that vexation. So even if we try to treat it, let's say we could fill or complete it to the 100 or fully complete it. So we completed 100% of our desire. Now we won't need an eye anymore, need eyes anymore, because now it's completed. Now we can work on another thing, another organ, and complete that one as well. And this goes on for all the 6 organs, and after that we won't have any vexation. But that's not the case. Even we try to complete it, we try to treat our vexations, not a single 1% can be completed through this way. Because what happens when we are trying to treat our vexation is, it's like a bucket of water with holes under it. So when there are holes under a bucket of water, what happens is the water level goes down and it eventually becomes empty. Now we are using this analogy to understand the nature of our body and mind, and the essenceless and useless thing that we are doing to treat this vexation without knowing the reality, and to see how useless that way is. So let's say we are putting water into a bucket with holes. So the water level, when the water level rises, we feel it as blissful. The rising water level is felt as blissful. But when it goes down, we feel it as suffering. So what happens when you put water to a bucket with holes? As soon as you are putting it, when you are doing the act of putting water, you feel blissful since the water level rises. But as soon as you stop, it starts to pour out from the holes, starts to leak out. So that is not felt as blissful, but it's the quite opposite. So what you do is, since your mind of avidya decides that this water, rising water, or the act of putting water is a valuable action that can give blissful sensation to you. So you have decided it, and that's your conclusion. So you keep on putting water to that bucket, and you get trapped in a loop, because since the water goes down as soon as you stop, you cannot stop. Since your ideology or your decision is that avidya can, or this putting water can give blissful sensation, you would continue doing it. But the thing is, the water always goes down. So you have to do something, always engage in something in order to keep this level of satisfaction. So that's tiring. It's not easy to drag water from a well and put it into a bucket. It's not easy. So life is not easy because of that. You have to work, you have to earn, you have to do everything in order to fill these 6 buckets that have holes and that leaks all the time. So that's a so if you understand life through this analogy, you would see that it's a now what we are doing is not very wise. So the water goes out. So there's another thing that happens. So holes under this bucket becomes larger. When you put more and more water, gradually they become large. Initially, when you put water, the water level going or the decrease in the water level was slowly happening. But as time goes, what happens is these holes become large. So now you have to do extra work in order to get the water level up. So you do more and more work. Think about somebody who have addicted to something, some drug or alcohol or something. Initially, you could get the water level up, and he thought that it's blissful. But the thing is, it goes down, so ends up in suffering anyway. Because if you had to part with something you like, then that's suffering. So it says as Priya Viprayogo Dukkho. If something you like was taken away from you by some mechanism, then you would feel a suffering sensation. So that's what happens. Even if you think, when the thought comes that alcohol or any other drug is blissful or valuable or worth using, then that itself made that item a valuable item that you like. So when something or when the item was parted from you or separated from you by the nature, and that's the nature, that's the way of the nature. So that will end up in a suffering sensation. So that's what happens. So when you use alcohol or something, you thought that it's blissful, and there's a, not that you don't feel a blissful sensation. It's because initially you won't, but with time, your body and as your mind, your body will charge or change your mind in such a way that it becomes vexatious, so the vexation builds up so that you can enjoy from using alcohol. A normal person who has never used alcohol and who has no such view as alcohol is good, he won't feel such a enhanced sensation of bliss through using alcohol, because he has no he doesn't have a vexatious system initial. But if he happen to grow this kind of a ideology or avidya, and if we continue on this process, then he also would finally end up being an alcoholic. So what happens initially was that when the person uses this alcoholic beverage, so his mind and body becomes more and more vexatious. So when that happens, the holes become large in that bucket. So even if you put the same amount of alcohol to the body, then that amount cannot treat that higher vexation. So you need more. So this is what is called tolerance. You tend to tolerate the last amount of the alcohol you took. So using this example, we can understand the nature of how the world works. So when we get attached to something and when we try to use it more and more, what happens is you tend to get immunity towards that object. So you want more. And if you use that more and more, sometimes what happens is you lose interest in that object and you see interest in a similar kind of object but different. So it happens to food. So when you try to have so these can be individually the explanation or the idea of this bucket can be individually assigned to the 6 organs. But when it comes to initial item or the items, individual items that we use, say we are using or we like a certain kind of a food. So we cannot, the thing with the bucket happens when we develop the vijnana or the mindset which is created with avidya. So that happens, the holes in the bucket increase, the size of the holes in the bucket increases, so that you would develop a habit of eating, overeating, and you would become obese and everything would go in a negative way. And you wouldn't be able to stop it. You would have to earn more, you would have to do more and work more, everything, so that you can fill this bucket. So because you have this idea that taste is blissful and you are eating more than required, which is to maintain your body. So when that happens, you are, you can apply this theory or the analogy there. But when we are referring to individual item or food item, so initially, let's say you like ice cream, or let's say you like pizza. Now you're having pizza, and after some time, what happens is the interest for pizza is gone, and now you will develop interest in some other food. So when you use this, you have a vijnana or a mindset developed with avidya, and it says that it's avidya or a likeness, delusional way of thinking that taste is blissful. Actually taste is not blissful, it's vexatious. So when the vexatious nature of the mind connected with the tongue is treated, you feel the blissful sensation. Not that blissful sensation is not there. It's there, but the way it occurs, when you identify it, when you understand it, you realize that it's not a wise way to achieve bliss like this. So when you are using your tongue, when you are taking food and experiencing it, initially what you have is actually what do you call a curiosity. Initially, when you see an object, what you get is the curiosity. What's that? So it's a mental vexation. So for a food item you have never seen before, let's say you saw pizza for the first time in your life. You just saw it and you are experiencing the smell, but you haven't tasted it. Now you have a curiosity. And this curiosity increases with others giving ideas to you. So it says that ignorance is a result of other causes. What are the causes that created this ignorance or avidya? It is called as asatpurusha sansevana. Or in other words, it's the association with people who also have avidya, who have these wrongful views, delusional views, and they tend to imply or implant these delusional views into your mind. So that's how the avidya develops. So initially you had this curiosity, and others also told that this is a good food. You have to try it. It's very delicious, and you would get addicted as well. And then they would say something like that. And your mind full of avidya also would accept it and welcome it. And you would now want to get rid of the mental vexation. Now what happens when a mental vexation arises in your mind? You automatically, or you start thinking, because thinking is how you can get rid of mental vexation. So let's say someone blames you, so it starts a mental vexation. What you do is you think, you blame in your head, you blame that person in your head, and you try to reason out, no, I didn't do that, this is what happened, and everything. Because when the mental vexation builds up, what you can do is, what automatically happens is, you start creating thoughts to get rid of that vexation. Just like eating when you're hungry. So you will immediately start thinking, and since this thinking is fueled by avidya, the vexation starts to build up. So now you are putting water to that bucket, and what happens is the water level goes down, and you put more and more water, and what happens is the holes under the bucket start increase in size. So now you have to do more work. So you start thinking is easy, but using your mouth to talk is even harder. So you use your mouth and you start talking about it, so that you can get rid of the vexation. And finally, you will end up going for the actions using your body, and you do everything that is needed to buy a piece of a pizza and enjoy it. And while you are enjoying, what happens is you would develop, or you would create this mindful of avidya, and you would develop it. You would increase the the ideology or the idea you had in your mind that this can give blissful sensation would be proved by these five senses. Because when it comes to Buddhism and when it comes to vipassana, it's always the wisdom, the chaitasika of prajna or wisdom, that gives the right idea. But it's the inputs taken up using these five senses always favors avidya. That's why we are tricked. We get tricked all the time, because the inputs given by the five internal organs always gives the wrong idea. It always facilitates avidya and says that what you thought is right. So that's exactly what happened. You thought it can give blissful sensation, and it's proved by your tongue and your mind. So you would want to experience more and more pizza. So then a strange thing happens. So initially, so the thing is, your avidya, since you are working with a narrow thinking pattern, when you have avidya, you forget what you initially concluded. You concluded that pizza is blissful. Then it should be blissful for eternity. But it is not. When you start using it for several months, let's say you stopped using, you stopped eating any other thing, and you started eating only pizza for about a week. And now, gradually, that mindset would shift from pizza to some other thing, and your vexation or your deficiency would shift from pizza to any other food item that you would find interesting, because of that's also because of avidya. So that now you'd be like vomiting when you see pizza after some time. You'd not like it. You'd say, now I don't feel like having pizza. But the initial idea gave for pizza was not that. It was different. So this is what happens with individual item. When you have curiosity, since you have curiosity in your tongue to taste what is there, and when you fully identify what is there, the composition and everything, you don't have any more curiosity, any more deficiencies. So you know what's coming next. You know the taste. You know everything. So there's no mirage. So if there's only a mirage, only then you can walk into it. The water is already, or the mirage is already very near you. You don't see a mirage. The mirage is automatically gone. So that's what happens. When the mirage is far away, you see it as water. And now if you have the deficiency or to drink, or if you have thirst, then you'd start moving towards that mirage. What happens when there's a mirage in a very thick desert? So when you move towards the mirage, what happens is there are the differences in the terrain. So the differences in the terrain actually vanishes this mirage from one place and it appears in another area. So you have to constantly change your pathway when you are going towards a mirage, because it vanishes from one side and it appears in another, and then vanishes from that side and appears in another. So that's what happens when you are trying to go after this mirage, looking a blissful sensation in the faculty of taste or the tongue. So what happens is when you are going towards the mirage of pizza, it's gone and it appears as another mirage in another place. So you change your pathway towards that mirage, and that's also gone. And again, the mirage for a pizza appears again, and then you go after that, and this happens throughout the samsara, and you won't find a solution. So this is what you should apply this for all the 6 senses. Now we discussed one, and you can apply it for all the 6 senses. So that's what is called chintamaya prajna. So when you think like that, when you try to practice your mind in such a way that we discussed, so what happens is your ability to develop this wisdom increases, and you would start to be liberated or think on your own, and you would be able to find solutions for your problems or in fact your suffering. So that's what happens. So this when you understand this way of thinking, or you know that it's very logical and it's very understandable, and what we are doing, if you understand it correctly, what we are doing is actually like what do you call this, we took that analogy, putting water to a bucket full of holes, and it is not a very wise idea. So that would be the conclusion of wisdom. So that now with this understanding, so now we in the last session we discussed different aspect of how we are going to see this reality, and today we discussed another way of seeing it. So what we discussed is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. In the last session as well as in this session, what we discussed was anicca, dukkha, anatta, though we did not mention the words. So if we apply the words here, so anicca is you cannot fulfill your expectation. So your expectation is to fulfill that bucket, but you cannot. It's not how it works. So your expectation is to fulfill your 6 senses, but it works in a different mechanism. So your idea or your expectation never meets. So what happens the next is, because your expectation is not met, you end up in suffering, so dukkha. And this filling the bucket thing, or this, if you get this kind of a scenario, or if you think that your life is something like this, then you would understand anatta is useless, senseless. What we are doing is not something wise. It's not a very wise thing to do. So that would be the conclusion. So anicca, dukkha, anatta. And asubha means it's not something that we should take value in. It's not something valuable. It's something that basically it's something useless. So that's the idea. So when you understand in this aspect, in this way, now you have to see what changes when you understand like this. So your initial structure in life was to go after these 5 senses. So your job, your whatever the goals you had, your career, and everything was directed towards having these sensual pleasures through these 5 organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, using your mind. So you understand that it is not a very wise thing to do. And you are experiencing a lot of suffering in the process, and it's just a mirage. What you are seeking is just a mirage. It's not that it's not there, it's there, but the process of acquiring it is not a very wise path. So when you understand that, and now you understand that the world is not worth living, or something like, what am I going to do with this world now? So a sensation or a thought like that would occur. So it says now, when you initially understand the essenceless nature of the world, you would understand, or you'd attain what we call Anulomakshanti. So when it comes to Anulomakshanti, you understand this anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So if someone is trapped in Anulomakshanti, then he would not know what to do, and he would be in constant pain. What am I going to do with this world? And he would finally feel like ending his life. What should I do? So that has happened during the Supreme Buddha's time. So it's not that. When it comes to Buddhism, it's a pathway of bliss. It's not a pathway of suffering. So it's not like you are the hidden suffering was revealed to you, and that's it. Now you have to be with. Now earlier you didn't know that there's a hidden suffering, so you are fine because of avidya, and you are suffering, but you didn't know it. But now you know that you are suffering, and you don't have anything to do about it. You cannot do anything about it. So it's not like that. So Buddhism is a way of giving you the real truth, and also a way of salvation, way of getting rid of that suffering. So that's what we need. That's what becomes the priority of a Arya person. So the priority changes from the sensual pleasures to this Nibbana. So that's Nibbana. So what is Nibbana? It's a Nibbana is a thing that, or a concept that you see. You see that it's achievable. It can be attained. It's true. But there's a pathway. So even though you say you want to go to somewhere in your country, or let's take Sri Lanka, you want to go to Colombo. So when you want to go to Colombo, you should ask for directions and know the way, that this is how you reach Colombo. But you still haven't been there. You're still in your home, but you know the way. Now what you need to do is you need to start your journey. So then eventually you would reach Colombo. So exact same thing happens with Nibbana. So you know the way initially, and then there's a pathway that you should follow to attain it. passing Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arya, attaining Nibbana. So Padisesa Nibbana. So what you should understand is, so let's see Nibbana, or the freedom or the independence, what we get through letting go. If you understand a fraction of it, then you can apply it to the very end. It's the same pattern. So let's say you have something you like. Let's say you like gold, jewelry and everything. And you have jewelry in your house and it's locked because it's valuable and because others also find it valuable. You cannot put it on display outside your house, in the garden. You cannot keep it like that because other people would steal it. So you have a garbage bin as well in your house, but you don't keep it locked. You don't give an extra concern about where it is, what we are going to do about it when we are leaving the house, or for leaving the house for maybe 1 or 2 months, or we would not get a concern about it when a news or something pops up in the news saying that there's someone who is stealing in the neighborhood. It's not like that. So when something you like, you give value, is getting stealed or gets broken or get distracted or get aged, become old, and the value of it deteriorates over time, that's not a good, happy sensation. It's always suffering. Since the ideology or the idea that you have in your mind is of avidya, the idea never changes. You always find gold valuable. But eventually what happens is it can be stolen, it can be, anything can happen to it. So the value can go down and it can lose its shine. Anything can happen. So when that happens, you'd what would get generated is suffering. So when that suffering sensation generates, it's a vexation. So you don't like suffering, you don't like vexation. What you would do is you would try to get rid of the vexation. So you would do everything possible. If it's unsafe, you would buy a locker, you would buy a safe or something, and put it inside and lock it up. And if it is getting deteriorated, you would do something to get rid of that, and you would try to get rid of the vexation you have in your mind, and you have to work, you have to put extra effort, you have to spend your time and your energy doing that. It's not blissful. And eventually what would happen is either you would die, or that even if you live for, let's say, 1 million years, then the gold would end up in destruction, or something would happen to the gold. So that's what happens. So you would have to anyway part with the object. Let's say you bought a car. Now this car gets old day by day and it will end up in destruction one day. So Jara Marana, and it can be stolen, it can meet with accident, and it can get dented, and it can change in such a way that you don't like. So you are afraid of everything that I mentioned because you give value, you like the original appearance, you like to keep it, you don't like it getting old, you like the paint, you like everything. You like the interior, you like how it feels, you like the sight, you like the hearing or the sound of the engines, you like the feeling of the seats, and you like everything. You like what you get through your five senses. So when you are like that, but the thing is, this car or the external item, it does not act, or it cannot be controlled according to your will. It has its own set of causes that creates it. So when then they changes, what happens is then something you don't like appears. So it got dented. A coconut fall on the windscreen, and it got shattered. Anything can happen. So you don't like that, and you have the fear of that, but fear is vexatious. So what you do is you want to get rid of the fear. You want to get rid of the vexation. So what you do is you do everything in your power to be peaceful, to be free. Now you want to become free. That's what you do these things. Because vexation is not free. It's not a sensation or a feeling of freedom. So now you want to become free. So what you do is you apply for insurance. You construct a garage or something, and you try to service your car. And when it is getting old, you try to repair it. Try to maintain that original state which you are attached to. And by trying to do that, you're suffering. And you're suffering for your freedom. And eventually, you have already lost, and you are trying to win a lost battle, but eventually these items would end up in decay and death. That's Jara Marana. So this is the story. So for the garbage bin that you had in your house, even anything happens, even a person steals the garbage inside your garbage bin, you don't care. You won't even notice that the garbage is gone. You would think that I put it in the morning, I put it outside, but it was someone who stole it. But you don't care. So the garbage bin did not affect your freedom. Just the thought of garbage was not a vexatious thing. So that's what happened. So let's compare this bin of garbage to someone who does not like or find interest in cars or vehicles. Now he also bought a vehicle. Not that the vehicles are bad. It's your thinking or your avidya which is bad. Not that you are two-storied house, a luxury house is bad. It's the thinking you have in your mind that is bad. That is always creating vexatious status in your mind. So you have a car and you use it for your comfort. You use it to go to the market and go to work and go to places that you need to go. So other than that, you don't find any interest in your car. You just find it, you just use it for your daily activities, to make this your daily activities more easier, more convenient. That's why you use it. So he doesn't get that much of what do you call vexatious feeling when he think about it can get robbed, it can get old, it can end up in destruction one day. No, doesn't feel that kind of a vexation through those thoughts. So he doesn't need to do much for his freedom, since his freedom regarding this vehicle is already there. Now he doesn't have to fight for freedom. Now that's the thing. So Nibbana, when it comes to, we can apply Nibbana. Nibbana means free. So attachment is opposite of Nibbana. So when you are attached, you're not free. When you let go, then you are free. Let go from your mind. So when you are free, you don't experience that sufferings, the vexation of fear initially it's fear, and you try to get rid of the fear, and so then you work and you put effort, and that's also suffering, and eventually they will end up getting distracted. So that's also suffering, since you have to part with something you like. So now the second person is experiencing a lot of pain and suffering due to a vehicle, and the first person doesn't care. Let's say he doesn't own one, he just uses taxi service to do his work. You don't want to own a car, just need the comfort of it initially. Finally, the last stages, you don't even want that. Just want to you want the for basic needs: food, shelter, then clothes and medicine. That's what an Arihat would need to complete his journey towards Nibbana in this, while he was staying in this live world. So what happens when you don't own a car, or the interest or the attachment or the value given to the car becomes zero, then you don't have any of the problems that the other person had. So your suffering, level of suffering is lesser when it comes to, when we isolate the incident. When the incident, so we cannot apply to his whole life, since we are talking about this vehicle and the connection of him with the vehicle. So when we isolate it and isolate that situation, the person does not feel pain, suffering in regard to the vehicle, the first person, or the person who's not attached. So he's experiencing a little bit of freedom compared with the second one, and he has free time. He's free. So we say he's experiencing a what do you call relative Nibbana. It's relative, it's not the full thing. So, but if you understand the concept through this idea, then this is what you apply and this is what you practice to the very end. So when you get attached, there are problems, and that's called adinama. You see adinam, problems. And when you let go, you see and you see how it benefited you. Oh, we call it the attachment, the problems when you get through the attachment is called adinava. And when you get rid of that, it becomes anisansa. Since you are not associated with that thing, attached with that thing, you get anisansa. So you see these two sides. You see the value of the freedom or nibbana, relative nibbana that you are experiencing, and you see the problems that you would face if you get attached to these kind of things. So in this way of thinking, what is blissful is when there is less suffering. Less suffering is seen as blissful. Not that you are trying to experience some kind of new bliss, which is felt through the 5 senses or 6 organs. If you are trying to experience something felt through the 6 organs, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, you are looking, you are seeking for something that eventually get distracted because it's something. So it's something that you seek outside in the world. Those are images, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and thoughts. Those are the things that you would look for if you want to experience bliss through the internal organs. So the thing with the external items is they always get distracted because they are things that came to life because of processing. So that they got processed and they became objects. So initially, so after some time, they would get distracted. So you cannot have an eternal bliss through something like that. So it's like a coin. If you are looking for, you cannot have a one-sided coin. You always get 2 sides. So you only want the blissful part of the coin, or let's say the left side of the coin. But you don't want the suffering part of the coin, which is the right side. But you cannot have a coin with only one side. What you can do is you can get rid of the coin. So both sides are gone. That's what happens with Nibbana. You see the problem with this way of thinking, this way of bliss, and get rid of the blissful part. You see that it's not a wise thing. Then the suffering also, and suffering which is attached to it, is also gone. So the now coin is gone. Now no suffering, no bliss. You become neutral. So that's what happens when you're practicing this Dhamma. So we applied it to something, and a car, like the example, and you understood the theory behind it. And let's apply it to the very end. When you are, what you have to do is you are. So what happens? How the idea or the the aim, goal, purpose of life changes. In an Arya person is, in one end, he has this idea that he can enjoy the world through using five senses. In the other end, he has the Nibbana, where there is zero suffering. So what happens when you understand or comprehend this Dhamma is, now you cannot genuinely align with the end, or that the other end where there is only sensual pleasures, because you find it not useful, and you find that Nibbana through your wise opinion or wise decision that it is what you need to achieve. So it's a spectrum. In one end, you have the sensual pleasures and the world. The other end, you have the elimination of the world, or Nibbana. So since one end is so, when you are seeing through wisdom, one end is so suffering, the other end is so blissful, you'd automatically get attached to that blissful end, or you do always want that blissful end, and you would always try to get rid of that other end. So that's what happens. So the priority changes. So initially what we did throughout this life, from morning to evening, from birth to death, is trying to earn, trying to do everything, trying to work and be good citizens. Everything is to, when you don't have that understanding, everything what you did was to enjoy or please these six organs. But when you become an Arya, that changes. So now your life, the first priority becomes attaining Nibbana. And you see that even though you understand the reality, it's like we have a lot of bad habits, since we haven't known this kind of a real, or this kind of a truth for so long in this samsaric journey, and it's very new to us. Our old wrong habits still are within us. They are within ourselves, and we are doing them even without knowing, sometimes with our knowledge. So let's say someone is biting nails. So a good friend of his says that, or a wise person says that, you should stop biting nails because you have this kind of problems when you do that. It is not good for your status, it is not good for your health, and everything is said. And this person understands, yes, that's right, I should stop this. And he vowed, or he fully determined to get rid of this habit. But he goes home, he's watching TV, he's in his phone, he's doing some calculations, or doing some work. So during this time, what happens is, without knowing, his hand goes to his mouth and start biting nails. So only when he realizes that I am doing what I am not supposed to do, which I said that I would stop doing it, so then only he would get to his normal senses and stop doing it. And this would go, if he tried genuinely without giving up, after some time, after a month or two, or maybe 6 months, this habit is fully gone from his system. So that's what happens with Arya pathway as well. So you have, when you realize, when you understand this, your first priority becomes attaining Nibbana. Even though that becomes your first priority, you have a very bad set of habits which doesn't align with Nibbana. So gradually, day by day, what you would understand and you would realize that I have these kinds of wrong habits. If I am to attain Nibbana, I have to get rid of these things, and you would be mindful and watchful with what you are doing, and that's called Samma Sati. So that occurs, and it would increase to a state where there are no more wrong habits, and that's called Bahita Papi. All the sinful acts you had, all the wrong or the acts that does not align with Nibbana, Raga, Dvesha, and Moha acts, all of them are gone. So now you have become Raga Kaya. You are devoid of Raga, devoid of Moha, devoid of Desha, Raga Kyo, Desha Kyo, Moha Kyo, Nibbana. So that's what is called Nibbana. So that's where you would get. So when you are not attached, we told you that when you are not attached to a car, you don't mind it being stolen, because it's not your car. You can experience it when you put when you apply it to some other car that owned by someone else, just like a taxi. So you don't care the taxi being stolen, taxi being damaged, because it's not yours, but you used it. For you paid, just like for your own car you paid. You spend money to repair it, to put fuel inside it. You did everything. So you, for the taxi also, you're getting benefited, and you pay, and it's not yours. So since you have the idea that it's not yours and you are not attached to it, you don't mind anything happening to it. So just like that, let's say we apply it to an Arihat, and an Arihat is not attached to his mind and body as well. So when someone is not attached to the mind and body as well, just like the story of the taxi, even if someone comes with a knife to stab that person in the chest, that one would not be upset. That noble person would be still calm and quiet in his freedom. Even a murderer would not be able to take the freedom he has from him. That's the ultimate end. That's what we go. That's where we go. So that's how the ideology or the idea. Now this is fully theoretical but practical. So that's why. So when someone understands the very end, that the extreme end that we just talked about, that a person would find that end is very theoretical, but it's not. It can be achievable. You cannot climb the mountain. Let's say you are trying to climb the Adam's Peak, and there are a huge number of stairs. You cannot, when you are down at the base of the mountain, you cannot put your foot on the topmost stair. You just have to climb the immediate stair next to you. But if you keep on following that pattern, you just put your foot on the stair in front of you, and there would be a day that you would say that this is the last stair, and I just have to do what I did for the past 100,000 stairs. Just put my foot in front of and get on to the last stair. That's everything. That's the end of the story. But initially you cannot do it because you have no such big limbs to climb the Adam's Peak in one go. It's not like that. So when it comes to pathway or Nibbana, it's the same story. Cannot even, you might not be able to understand the mindset of an Arya. We always can't, because it's something very different, something very, like we cannot say, if we haven't been, of course we haven't been an Arhat before, otherwise we would not be here. So let's say someone never been to the Mount Everest or Adam's Peak, is trying to explain or understand the condition there, weather there, and the wind and the scenery, the everything. So the climate and everything. So if you try to guess it, you won't be able to. Even someone who haven't been to Everest, who hasn't seen any pictures of it, trying to experience or understand by his own the terrain or the scenery there, it wouldn't be easy. So the same thing happens to us. So what we have to do is, we know what our surrounding is, we know our problems, so we know what we are attached to. We are going to see, just like we are looking through a mirror, we are going to reflect on ourselves and see where we are attached, and where we are attached the most, and see the problems of getting attached, and see the freedom, or the reduction of suffering when we are not attached. Then you would develop your wisdom, so you would be able to let go of these huge or heavy attachments you have in your life, and it would be a blissful journey. So that's how a person's life changes from his original goal to his new goal of becoming an Arya. So if someone has any questions about today's discussion, you can ask.
Please unmute yourselves and ask questions. So if you don't want to speak, you can send the questions through chat. We have that option open. So I mean, answer. So you were explaining that we have given values to things, and then they become essentially, we get attached because of those values. And so I have heard this term, the Sinhalese term, Vatina Karma. So it is, the Nirukti is like what in our karma. That means the values that were given by others, so that then we become attached to them. Could you please expand on that, so that we have more clear understanding of how that process lead to vexatious habits and things like that?
Yeah, sure. So that's a very good nirukti. Nirukti is the entomology. When it comes to Buddhism, it's a very different way of giving meaning to words. So it's through sounds. So every sound has a meaning. So sounds and combinations of sounds. So when you what do you call divide the word, you would get a perfect meaning of the word with regard to the way of vipassana. So you would see this word and you would understand that the meaning of the word, and it perfectly aligns with the idea of reality. So it's a very strange but beautiful way of this language. So what happens when what in karma means, we explained that only other people who have the ideology of this wrong ideology, or the people who are ignorant or full of avidya, are the ones who implant these ideas on you. So let's say you're watching television, you are watching advertisements. What happens in them? They put an idea in your head that these things are valuable. This is the fashion nowadays. That's what they give you. That's what they say. And everyone else starts to believe. And the society forces you to dress like that, because there's nothing blissful in that. It's just you have to earn more, and you have to be in the competition with other people, so that you don't get rejected from the society, and it's a suffering path. But it's other people who gives this idea. So that's what happened when people are assigning values to objects. Let's say this dress is 1,000 rupees, this dress is 100 rupees, this dress is 10,000. So like that, people would categorize clothes. Let's take the example of clothes and try to understand this. So why is he putting a 1,000 rupee tag to that dress? So if you put that dress in the society, because of the mindset they have. So this is not a mindset that they just got. They developed it over time, seeing the advertisement, seeing the people's views, and the pressure from the society. They have different kind of ideas, different ideas in their heads regarding dresses. This is a nice dress. This is the color that I want to wear. So this kind of mindset is already implanted in these people's minds. So when you put a dress that is tagged as 1,000 rupees to a society, if at least 50% or 70% would buy that dress, then he would say that it is a good value that you have given to that dress. Let's say you put it into, you increase that amount to 1,500 rupees. So the 70% would go down to 50 or 40%. Now you change it to 2,000 rupees. Now only 10% would find it interesting, valuable. And if you put it into 10,000 rupees, then maybe no one would buy it. So that's how it works. So that's how Vatina Karma appears. So it's something given by the society. So let's say you reduce the dress, 1,000 rupee dress to 800. Now 70% would go to 90%. Now 90% would want to buy that dress, and you reduced it to 200 rupees, and everyone would most of the people, not everyone, most of them would want to buy it. So that's the difference. So society decides the amount where the creator or the person who is selling it gets the most benefit or the profit, and also he would be able to sell a decent amount of pieces as well. So that's where the amount would stay. So let's say 1,000 rupees would be a good amount if 60 or 70% is going to buy, because in their ideology or in their mind, it says that this amount, this dress is good for this amount. So when the pattern is more stylish, when the dress is more what do you call more sophisticated or something, so when that happens, but what's going to happen is that the amount would start to increase because the society gives more value to that dress. So so we saw that in a society point of view. So that can be individually identified as when someone who did not like some kind of what do you call alcohol beverage, like we said before. So he or she has no interest in having that. But we know that when there's peer pressure, when others say that it is valuable and you should have it and you would get more benefited from the peers, the friendship would grow, and also you would have a great time and everything would be implanted on your head. And the avidya would, since you have the anusaya, we call it anusaya, it's a new technical term. So we try to explain it later. So when you have anusaya, when all the necessary factors align, your avidya would start to grow, and finally you become an alcoholic. That's how you gave vatinakama, or the value. So when you become an alcoholic at the end, now think about the sufferings you have to go through. You have to earn. Two people who one does not take alcohol, the other one does, doing the same job, doing everything which is completely identical. Let's take a control experiment here. Completely identical, other than using alcohol. So the one who is using alcohol have another headache, another suffering, but when compared with the one who does not drink alcohol. So that's the problem. When you take the decisions or the ideas of others who are full of avidya, then this is what happens. You start to suffer. Suffering is the result. So it's this. So what happens when you meet an Arya, or the listening to Dhamma and understanding Dhamma? Then when these four things happen, what happens is you tend to identify who is people with avidya and who are the people that does not who are trying to get rid of avidya and who does not have avidya. You will be able to differentiate those two. And since your goal also changes to get rid of avidya, you would align with those people who also trying to get rid of avidya and also who has gotten rid of avidya. So that's where sangha, or you have three noble gems, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Sangha is the disciples who have taken the pathway. So there are two parts, Sammuti Sangha and Paramartha Sangha. So Paramartha Sangha means the noble individuals who have attained, or who are in the pathway to Sotapanna, and from pathway to Sotapanna to Arihathood. So there are 8 people: pathway to Sotapanna, pathway to Sakadagami, pathway to who are following the path to Anagami, and who has become Anagami, and who is following the Arihat pathway, and who has attained the Arihathood. So those are the 8 people. So individuals, noble individuals. So we call them Paramartha Sangha. And there are other set of Sangha called Sammuti Sangha, and those are the individuals who have become monks, who have become nuns. Those are the Sammuti Sangha. So when you understand this ideology or the reality, you would align with at Sammuti Sangha as well as Paramartha Sangha, both. Because the other people are giving wrongful ideas. Not that you are going to reject them, you are going to scold them or blame them about it. They are helpless. What you try to help them to get rid of this wrong ideology as well. But you would always prefer Arya, or a person, a noble individual who is following the pathway or who has attained or completed the pathway, to a individual who is full of avidya, who is talking value about life and external world. So that's what happens. So that's how the Vatinakam, or the value, reduces from 100 to 0. It's a gradual thing to happen. It does not happen overnight. So that's what happens. That's the meaning of value. So if someone did not give value to a certain item, if he does not have the need, he or she would never give value to item. Let's say the atmospheric temperature or the room temperature is always 25 degrees, and you would not be able to sell one air conditioner in that kind of a world. Even in the South Pole, North Pole, in the equator, if the temperature is 25 degrees, then the Vatinakam, or the value, would be gone. So value comes with vexation, or physical or mental. So mental vexation is put or implanted by others. This physical vexation, since we have constructed a body and a mind because of our past avidya, our past ignorance. So that's a consequence of that. So we have to bear with that suffering throughout this lifetime, even if we attain this nibbana. So that's what happens. So when the vexation is gone, and the problem, or when the deficiency is gone, we don't feel the need, or the value would be gone. So what happens with Dhamma is this mental vexation would be gone, since we understand the reality. So the reality, or Dhamma, is like light, and this avidya and ignorance is like darkness. When there's light, darkness cannot last. Darkness would be gone, and it would be eradicated. So when the darkness is fully gone, and when there's light, you would understand the reality. And the deficiency is a result of darkness. The deficiency in the mind, basically. So deficiency in the mind for certain items is a result of darkness. But when you have light, when you brighten that area in your mind, then the result, or the deficiency, which is a result of avidya, would be gone. When the deficiency is gone, you won't give value to something when there's no deficiency in your mind or body. You would not want it. You would see it as a disturbance, a burden, and you would get rid of it. That's the idea.
Is there anybody who has any questions? Please unmute and ask Thero any of your questions, please. So, since nobody is coming forward, there was a word that came up during your response, Anushya. I know it is very hard to come up with English words for those things, and uh, I had this idea that Anushya is something that is not always there, but it happens. It's just like when you are using a matchstick and a matchbox, and the fire is not there, but when the two comes together, the fire comes out. So that's what it is. So the matchstick and the matchbox has the propensity to create the fire. So is it correct to say that Anushya is, propensity is a kind of not exactly correct, but something that we can use to describe Anushya?
Yeah, now when it comes to explaining in English, it's always about the examples and analogies, because there are no similar words or the corresponding words to explain these deep terms which are out of this worldly thinking. So these languages, most of them, 99% of them are created in order to work with the normal world and created through minds that are always full of avidya. So when that happens, it is very hard to explain and give terms in that kind of a language. It's not easy, convenient. So what we are going to do, what's happening is we try to explain it through what we call examples. So that's what Supreme Buddha also did during his encounters with the disciples. He always tried to give examples and explain the Dhamma, because initially there was no language that is fully suitable, or they did not have that kind of a language which is fully suitable to explain a pathway or an ideology that is out of this world's capacity. So it came through Gati Handa. So we call it when you have a state of being, you have a sound corresponding to that state of being. So that's the idea. So anicca is a word. Now we know the these terms where we see where we recite the qualities of Supreme, the quality of Buddha. So we call it Arahang Samma Sambuddha and so on. So these qualities are just sounds that depicts that quality. Sound itself is the corresponding, the quality also depicts the sound. So it's something like that. So when it comes to Anusaya is something not still present. That means it's not it hasn't become a result or a object or a something which is in this world, but it has the tendency to create some object to this world. So let's take this example. There's a river, and there's no water in the river, but you can see the depth, you can see the roots and rocks and stones and everything in the river, and you can see how the terrain or the surface of the surface of the river or the river bed. And when the water flows, it flows in a certain pattern, and it is already decided by the shape of the bed of the river. Still, there's no water. But when the water flows, it flows, we can predict that this water would go like this in here, and it would fall from the this cliff, and it would create a what do you call a waterfall, and everything can be predicted to a certain amount. If someone has a software or something with very good calculations, then that person would be able to exactly say how the river is going to flow. So it's something like that. This shape can be compared to Anusaya. It's not, the water hasn't flown yet, but when the water flows, it flows in such a way. So avidya is something like that. Avidya Anusaya is something like that. When the avidya forms, it forms in the way that was shaped by the Anusaya. So when the shape is there, the water will flow in the exact same pattern. So that's why the other example that you also gave was exactly like that. So when there's no flame yet, but there's a tendency or capacity for a flame to occur when all the causes get aligned, when the correct temperature, and the only thing that is needed here, you have the fuel, you have the oxygen, but there's one more to come, that is the correct temperature. When those three aligns, all the causes for a fire to occur appears then at that moment, creating a flame. So that what do you call this matchstick, or the what do you call the chemical at the end of the matchstick has the ability to create fire. So that's the but fire is avidya, and the ability to create fire is what we call anusaya. So it's an ability. So that would give a brief or a very simple idea of what anusaya is.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? You can ask any questions. It's not, there's no any wrong questions or any other way. It's we all learn from asking questions and discussing.
It would be easy if someone asks questions, because question is a deficiency. So when you develop a deficiency in your mind, just like when you have an interest about a subject, you would perform more in that subject. Not that you find the subject interesting because now we know the truth. It's because you find more. You are more vexatious. You find you generate a more vexatious mindset, so that you would find that that subject more interesting. So you would perform more in that subject. So same thing happens when it comes to Dhamma. So when you have a question and when you are listening to an answer which is given to a question, so that individual who asked the question is having, the others also can have that deficiency for the answer. So when that person, especially the person who asked the question, is having that deficiency and looking for an answer, and that person would that he would what do you call get more from that answer and understand more from that answer, absorb more. That's the word. So that person would absorb the most part. And just like listening to the boring lecture, and we cannot get much from a boring lecture, and we do not when we go home and try to recall, the things we remember would be less. And it's not actually about remembering, but for understanding also. When you try to remember what you understood, recall on what you have gained, or the wisdom what you have experienced and increased, then there would be the asking questions would be a much more effective way, because you are focusing on your life. Now you have reflected on your life, and you have reflected on your problems, and how you could get rid of suffering. And now you have a problem, because now you have stuck somewhere, stuck in somewhere. So when you ask that as a question, now you are trying to, in your mind, you are trying to process it, so that you can get rid of that problem, and it would be an easier way. That's why in Tripitaka as well, most of the time it's always about answering questions when it comes to Dhamma discussions with Supreme Buddha, and also with other supreme monks as well. So it's very good practice, and it would benefit others as well, and it would be easier to understand the mindset of the audience as well. So the discussion would be more tuned up and would be easier to conduct.
Okay.
Sarah,
My name is Bihan. I just have one question, that is, out of the 6 organs, which one is the hardest to get rid of the sensation?
out of the 5 senses, you say?
Yeah, 5 senses.
6 organs.
Yeah, actually, it depends on individual person. Someone would find what you call eyes are the hardest. Someone would find, let's say, a musician is there, and he has developed. Now he is associated with friends who are full of avidya, and who always says that music is the best, and musicians are the best, and we create the we are the people who are giving love to the world, and we are the people who are healing the world, and the music is a world language and a universal language. Everyone can communicate through music, and they say all these kinds of things, and they give value to music, and you develop mind of a musician, mind full of avidya in that aspect, and that person would not even want to have food, would not even look for pleasures, what you call sensual pleasures, other than listening, and other than creating music, other than enjoying these instruments and all. So he might not want to watch television shows, and he might not interested in smells and touches and anything, but all he is interested in is this music. So we know people like very what do you call, very very famous scientists. They are stuck in ideologies or science, mathematics. Those are thought processes. Now they don't even comb their hair. They don't even think about their personal cleanliness. They don't even go after other sensual pleasures, just like the people or the humans who are living in Aparagoyane, as I remember, or Purva Videho Aparagoyane. So those people who live in these kinds of worlds, they do not think about these sensual pleasures much. what they are focused on is science, the experimenting and thinking about how the world works. So it depends on the person. It depends on what kind of deficiencies, vexations you have developed over time with your life. So that's the difference. So if I may quote the Tripitaka, so in one sermon, so someone asked Supreme Buddha about what is the most hardest. What is the hardest shiksha, or the what do you call shiksha pada? We try to abide on the shiksha. I think you know the meaning. I find it difficult to translate into English word.
Discipline or Vinaya?
Vinaya. Those are from Vinaya, disciplines actually. Yeah, we can use the word discipline. So we have these verses. We say, or we pledge that we would abide by, so that our discipline, when it comes to the Arya pathway, the discipline regarding or the discipline that is needed for an Arya to complete the pathway. So we recite these kinds of what you called shiksha. So when that happens, someone out from outside comes and asks, what is the hardest one to follow? There are 5. Panatipata, Adinnadana, Kamisu Michachara, Musavada, and Suramereya, Majjapama, Dattana, Veramani. So like that, there are 5. So he says, Supreme Buddha says that what is hardest, or what is the, he asks, what is the most valuable one to discipline, or what gives most benefits when you get disciplined in that shiksha. So when that was asked, he says, what is hardest for you? It depends on the individual, and when you get disciplined in what is hardest for you, then that gives most benefit for you. So that's actually that's the story of this 5 senses as well. So what is hardest is what you have developed over time, giving food or giving fuel through avidya. So that's the way it is. So for eyes also, it's like that. Someone who has developed it, the sense, the deficiencies throughout a period of time, then that person would find that is the hardest to tame. The others would find their corresponding organs are the hardest to tame. That depends on individuality.
Did you receive a satisfactory answer? Or if you're not, you can ask more questions, or anyone else.
There once I understood.
Yeah, sure.
So it is, so answer, it is like, so somebody who is addicted to watching TV or social media or whatever it is on the phones or computers. So it is hardest for them to get away from that, and also it is most beneficial to get that discipline and that siksha, or refrain from doing that, so that you can break the habits. Is that correct?
Yeah. So these shikshas are to actually create a framework, or let's say a guideline, so that you can follow without thinking much about what I should do and what I shouldn't. You just follow the guideline and you would get the result. So it's actually cause and effect theory. So if you create the causes, you would get the effect. And if you get rid of the causes, the effect won't be there. So the plan is to get rid of the effect, which is the body and the mind, or the raga, dvesha, moha. So it is not something you create. When you do raga, or when you get divide of raga, divide of dvesha, divide of moha, you stop what you are creating. So what you do is you understand and you practice. When you practice it, this since this is a cause and effect theory, or a world based on causes and effects, so what we do is we follow a certain pattern, and even if we like it or not, the result will occur. Result will be there. Because when it comes to, there's an example which has given in the Tripitaka. It says that even if now it says about ghee. So when I don't know whether you know how to prepare ghee. It's made from milk. So when you are preparing ghee, even if you cry while preparing it, or even if you are happy preparing it, even so, regardless of being happy or being sad, you would be able to create ghee if you follow the path, if you complete the method, or work according to the recipe. So that's what it says. So even if you follow the guideline correctly, with the correct understanding, of course you should have the correct understanding. Otherwise, it would be just a ritual. Then when you have the understanding and when you follow the guideline, you just don't think much about what you should do and don't. You just have a idea, or a what you call agreement on what you are going to and not going to do. You have agreed on these terms before you are going to the world. So since you have a mindset, you have a framework to work on, it would be easier to fulfill or complete. So that's the logic behind these sikshas.
Thank you. Any other questions? Since it has been almost 2 hours since this discussion started, I know it's a long day, and maybe we will adjourn for now and meet in 2 weeks. And please join us in these discussions. And if you have any related question or even unrelated question, please write down, during the 2 week period, and ask our most venerable Deegoda Dhammadassi Thero is ready to answer these questions, as I said. And so thank you very much for participating. And so in Hansa, are you going to do a merit transfer, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's.
Okay. So today, for 2 hours, everyone gathered here, spending their valuable time on a valuable course in understanding the reality of the world, in understanding what needs to be done with this life, what is the ultimate bliss that you can achieve. And we reflected on our lives and tried to understand and complete the Nibbana, pathway to Nibbana, which is the eightfold pathway. And through this thought process, through our actions, through our thoughts, through our words, we created immeasurable amounts of merits, which would again help us to complete this pathway. May all the hindrances and barriers we have in completing the eightfold pathway to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana may diminish, get reduced, and may everyone get the opportunity opportunity to understand and comprehend the supreme Dhamma, fulfilling the pathway, attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Accept this blessing with sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And may all the dead relatives of everyone, and also the relations and others who are dear to you, and people who helped throughout the samsari journey, like our mothers, fathers, and other relations, and people who helped us in various kinds of things, and also the people who got hurted by us throughout the samsari journey because of our immoral, our unethical actions, immoral deeds, and everything, and also the people who are around us, helped us, and people who are looking for merits, who have become our past relations and past associates, and also the deities of 6 realms of gods, and also 20 planes of Brahmas, and also people, and also living beings, sentient beings throughout this universe may get this meritorious power, being happy and blissful about what we did today, and understanding the value of it, getting rid of all the sins and all the immoral actions, developing meritorious deeds in their lives, attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana finally, and let us transfer this meritorious power to them with metta and kindness with the sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so may everyone attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Abhaya silisa nichang vadapchayano chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukham balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti neva chato Nibbana sampatti vinati samicchatu sopatti.
Sadhu, sadhu. Anuttaram.
Sariputta Thero Agatang Patipatiya Saddha Siddhantaya Vasa Buddha Puttam Namamaha Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu.
Everyone Sarnam.
Everyone Sarnam.
Everyone Sarana everyone.